lonely outpost of coral and sand. 1,000 miles from anywhere. Yet here, on a blue morning in June 1942, America and Japan fought for control of the Pacific and changed the history of the world. It is 5 months since the devastating sneak attack on the Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. Now Japan is poised for total domination of East Asia and the Pacific. Pearl Harbor. In a dingy basement beneath command headquarters, Navy codebreakers have pulled off the greatest intelligence coup of the Pacific War. Out of coded enemy radio transmissions, they have teased out the secret plans for the next major Japanese attack. A huge Japanese task force is preparing to strike a crippling blow against the already weakened U.S. Navy. It will happen at Midway, as early as June 3rd, less than a month away. Yet now, the U.S. knows what's coming, and the Americans will lie in wait, hoping to ambush the Japanese fleet. Yorktown will rendezvous with her sister ships, Hornet and Enterprise, at a point approximately 325 miles northeast of Midway. Their mission? To ambush the Japanese. At the same time, 4 Japanese carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, under the command of Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, are steaming for Midway. These are the same machines and men who bombed Pearl Harbor. The Japanese know nothing of the American trap awaiting them. Admiral Chuichi Nagumo readies his attack. He is supremely confident of the final outcome, and utterly unaware of the American aircraft carriers slowly closing in.
My spirits were, well, up to then we had won every battle we fought, so we thought we would win again.
Now is the moment of attack. "7 a.m. The water's off Midway. The Japanese commander, Admiral Nagumo, is still completely in the dark about the trap awaiting him. "8:20 a.m. Admiral Nagumo receives truly startling news. His scout planes sight the one thing they never expected to see, an American carrier. Nagumo is shocked to discover he has a real fight on his hands. Now he must decide on his next step. Should he launch a limited strike immediately? Or regroup, refuel, and rearm all of his forces, and then obliterate what he believes to be the lone American carrier? He decides to wait. It is a decision that will change the course of the entire war. While Nagumo waits, the American pilots wing their way towards his carriers. Yet very quickly, many of the American squadrons get separated from each other. Most of the torpedo bombers find themselves on their own, without fighter protection from the fast, lethal Japanese Zeros. One after another, the young torpedo bomber crews attack just as they have been taught. Steady on, low, straight at the target. Directly into murderous enemy fire. And one after another, they are blown out of the sky. The Enterprise Torpedo Squadron, 18 out of 28 men, killed. The Yorktowns, 21 out of 24. And of the 30 from Hornet's torpedo squad, only one man makes it back. Yet not a single torpedo makes a single successful strike against any of the Japanese carriers. Despite all the sacrifice, the Americans are losing the battle. America is facing defeat at Midway. And the enemy commander, Admiral Nagumo, is set to launch a massive attack against the American carriers. Nagumo's crews work feverishly to get nearly 100 warplanes into the air. Abandoning all caution, they leave explosives and gasoline strewn everywhere. The decks are a disaster waiting to happen. Less than 100 miles away, 19,000 feet up, is the last American hope, the dive bombers. But none of them can find the enemy. The Japanese have taken a 90-degree turn northward to engage the U.S. ships. Then Enterprise's dive-bombing squadron plays a hunch and changes course. And in their sights appear the 4 Japanese carriers, Kaga, Akagi, Soryu, and Hiryu. And there is not a Japanese fighter anywhere to be seen. The enemy fighters are still too busy defending their carriers against the last of the American torpedo planes to stop the dive bombers high above. It's a sight Lieutenant Dick Best has been longing for.
I was amazed to see that the deck was a bright yellow, because our decks had been stained a North Pacific blue ever since the start of the war. And in addition to the deck being a bright yellow, the big rising sun up forward of the elevator, it was in glowing red, was like a tremendous advertisement that here we are the Japanese Navy.
He dives toward the rising sun. And releases his bomb, as does the rest of his group, onto Japanese decks now crowded with torpedoes, bombs, gasoline, planes, and men.
And she was a mass of flames from bow to stern, with tremendous eruptions coming up every 4 to 5 seconds, as a bomb must have hit.
Japanese survivors float hour after hour in the water, in silence with the dead and dying, as Kaga burns. Most are rescued by other Japanese ships, but not all.
We were fortunate to have been rescued so quickly. But there were still men left swimming, and they committed suicide.
In 5 short minutes, Kaga, Akagi, and Soryu have been devastated. Scores of planes destroyed, many hundreds of young men killed. Many of the Japanese airmen are caught in the sky above their burning ships with nowhere to land. In just 5 minutes, the cream of the Japanese Navy is finished.